Thanks, Representative Peterson. And it is good and reassuring to know that Representative Hall, Representative Peterson, and we have a lot of good farming backgrounds here in the state of Ohio, so at the State House. So that's very reassuring. We've been talking a lot about corn and soybeans, but we also have a lot of crops out there that we need to be worried about. And with us right now is Lisa Schacht from the Ohio Produce Growers and Marketers Association. Lisa, it's good to see you.
Thank you, Dr. Zehringer. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate this opportunity. I represent the producers of specialty crops and the marketers of specialty crops here in Ohio. Our growers are diverse producers of annuals and perennials, fruits and vegetables. The fruit crops will include tree fruits that have been long established, love this wet conditions, but hate the cloudy days that the bees don't come out. The brambles and berry growers also were probably well established, but they're fighting back from winter injury in those brambles and very wet conditions that bring on beautiful berries but can spoil them quickly. The vegetable producers in Ohio have a wide range of crops, from sweet corn to green onions, processing cucumbers and tomatoes to fresh market potatoes and peppers. We use a variety or multitude of cultural practices. We mentioned the difference in the earlier years when they had to do a lot more tillage. Well, in specialty crops, we have to do a lot of tillage. Even with plastic culture and using transplants, we have to go in there and work that ground and prep it in order to get those plants in. Many of us are direct seeding as well, and that's in fully tilled ground. Production now is moving towards progressive efforts like high tunnel production. That gives us some covered production. That's a great help, but it's still an emerging practice. Growers in Ohio have various mini climates and growing environments. We have producers that are in the fruit growing regions near Lake Erie. They have some of that lake effect, both in the winter and in the springs, that help them or sometimes can hurt them. We have the muck region in north central Ohio. They're dealing with ground that might drain rapidly so they can get in there, but it stays extremely wet and makes it difficult with disease spreading. The foothills of the Appalachian in southern Ohio also is a highly productive area, and they're seeing their share of difficulties. Impacts hitting us all in different ways. The wet conditions make it very challenging for us who put in annual crops. The tree fruit producers have some issues with violent events. I've heard of hail damage already and wind injuries and wind destruction in their orchards. And bramble growers, as I mentioned earlier, are coming out of a winter that has caused a lot of injury. Great lengths are being used to get crops in. My understanding from quite a few different producers is they're seeing considerable lateness and then considerable crop stress. Therefore, we expect lower yields. Also, many of us are expecting to collide with other regions, especially Michigan, which could mean that even though we have a shorter crop, we might still not see the kinds of prices we need for our crops. On a personal note, we use efforts to make up for those struggles, just like anybody else, talking about switching from corn to soybeans. Our second planting of sweet corn is drowned out. So in our third planting of sweet corn, instead of planting 68 or 72-day corn, we're planting 55-day corn or 62-day corn in order to hopefully not have a gap in there when we need to have that sweet corn. That planting would probably equate to 8 to 10% of my production of sweet corn. And so I got to make that up. In past years, when there's been regional weather events, if I was short on crop, I could also find another producer in the state that might supply me with crop. I'm also a retailer. If I don't have that product in my store, then my customers aren't going to come in. It's going to cost me to sell me other products I need to sell. So I don't want to be without it. Well, this year, Ohio is a wide spread of difficulty. So if I'm going to be short on corn, there might be all the other producers short on corn. That's what we're worried about at this time. Also, our potatoes went in 6 weeks late. 6 weeks doesn't mean I won't have a crop. It means that my crop will be smaller. Either it won't have enough time to size up to get the tonnage that I'm used to seeing on that field. Some of the crops might not even get planted. The potential then again, whoops. How do you do that? I think there's a button. I'm going to click with my thumb. It's underneath. I clicked it with my thumb. Sorry about that. I needed a break. Catch my breath. Anyways, therefore tighter supply. If I don't produce green beans and I'm looking for them from another green bean producer, and he's also still supplying all the other people he supplies, there's going to be a tightness in availability. But for those that are able to get in the field and get their crops produced, hopefully will mean that they have better prices. Vegetable producers generally do also rotate their crops with row crops. So if they're having difficulties with if those with row crops are having difficulties, the vegetable producers are double hit. They're having difficulty getting their vegetable crops in, plus they're having difficulty with their row crops. Oh, they're fair game.
Thank you, Lisa. And just, we're going to do questions here in a little bit, but do produce growers, do they have an option for crop insurance?
Steve Maurer alluded to that. Generally, most of the vegetable crops are not insurable. There are some programs for tree crop producers, and that's because they have had those violent issues in the past, like the hail issues. The vice president of the association told me a couple days on the phone that he had a hail incident 10 days ago, and they're going to get their adjuster out there. His highest value apple crop is the Honeycrisp, and sure enough, that was the orchard that was hit. And so there are some programs out there. There's also been some disaster programs from time to time when there's been late frost or that, but it's been very difficult and cumbersome for the special crop producers to work through those programs because of the variability from one region to the next. I remember one year when the assessors were coming around asking us what our production was like because someone had applied for disaster payment. And it was so variable just in Franklin County on strawberry production and that frost that year that it was hard to determine if that producer was really warranted to receive disaster payments. So there are some programs out there. Generally, we do more adjusting, like I mentioned about planting dates, how we adjust the varieties we plant, or we move around the farm more. I'm setting tomatoes in a place on a farm that I wasn't planning on setting tomatoes because it's where I could get in the field this week, and I've got to get those transplants into the field as soon as possible, or they're going to get leggy and unproductive when they do get in the field.
Thank you very much, Lisa.